everyone, it's Sean from What Up, and welcome back to another video. Now, this is going to be my review of Episode 2 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. So if you're new to the channel and you don't know what I do here, I basically cover anything and everything to do about the Wheel of Time show. So that is news, leaks, castings, all of that stuff, and in addition, right now I'm doing a bunch of videos per episode. A review, a breakdown, a parent's guide, and Easter eggs, and non-reader questions for each and every episode that's released weekly. So from now until Christmas, there's going to be a ton of Wheel of Time content from me, in addition to all the regular news and castings and whatnot that comes out. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, click the notification bell so you don't miss anything from me. Alright, before we get into the actual review, I do want to mention that this review is not going to take into account any of the changes from the source material. So I am not going to change my score based on the fact that things will be a little bit different or a lot different from the books. I'm reviewing the show on its own merits, and I've already done that with my episode 1 review. If you haven't already watched that, well, I'm letting you folks know right now I got a lot of hate for it. People didn't understand how I could not like certain elements of the first episode because I've been so positive here on my channel about everything for the last 2 years. I'm being honest with these reviews, but I will let you know that this review is a lot better than what I gave for episode 1. Alright, so the format of this is going to be a spoiler-free review. At first, we're going to talk about the general aspects of the show, what I liked, what I didn't like. Then in the middle, I'll give a spoiler warning, and I'll give specific examples detailing why I chose those things. Alright, so I'm going to start off with the score. The score I gave this particular episode was 8 out of 10, 2 points higher than I gave the first episode. Yes, for those of you who haven't watched my episode 1 review, I gave it a 6 out of 10, and I got a lot of angry comments about it. But I gave this one an 8 out of 10. I was very impressed with it. It did happen to go back and change and correct a lot of the issues that the first episode had, in my opinion. So let's go through them now. Visuals. This thing was stunning. Just as good as the first episode. The shots, the scenery, the locations, the props, the costuming, all of it was just absolutely amazing to behold on the screen. Visually, this thing is the prettiest thing I've ever seen on a small or a big screen, and I'm including some big names in there. So we're talking Lord of the Rings trilogy, we're talking C on Apple TV, we're talking The Witcher, Game of Thrones. This thing blows all of them completely out of the water. Visually, it is absolutely stunning to behold on the screen. Next thing we're going to talk about is acting. Now, part of the reason I gave the first episode a 6, and it was only a very small part, is because Rosamund Pike, I felt, didn't quite keep up with her counterparts. Not to say she did a bad job, it's just that Yosha, Madeline, Zoe, and Marcus did a much better job. Now, that might have been because they had slightly more screen time than she did. However, I felt in this episode she was right on par with them. Everybody just did a phenomenal job acting. I believed everyone was their characters, and I was fully immersed in the show. So, fantastic there. Next thing we'll talk about is visual effects and the special effects. So this is the only reason this episode gets knocked down to an 8 rather than a 10. That's pretty much the only reason, and that is because there are some shots and some scenes in this where I can super tell it's CGI, just like in the first episode, and I hate CGI. I really do. That's a personal preference of mine. I'm not saying it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'm saying if I can tell it's CGI, I don't like it, and I can tell throughout the episode in a few different spots. So that's the reason this one got an 8 rather than a 9 or a 10. Next thing we'll talk about is pacing. Now, this is where the first episode lost most of its points, was pacing. This one, way better. They slowed the pace way down. There was a whole lot of scenes where the characters were just interacting with each other, talking, setting up the world, setting up who they were. I felt that was way better, and they would have been better served doing that in the first episode as well. So the pacing of this episode, completely spot on point. They had the right things at the right times. They spent the right amount of time doing certain things and building the characters before they got to any of the action. I think it was fantastic. Alright, so now we're going to get into the spoiler section of the show. So if you haven't seen the second episode or you don't want anything spoiled for you, be forewarned, I'm going to talk about certain scenes in this episode. So spoiler warning, I will talk about certain specific scenes in the episode to give credence to some of my points when I give my review. So if you haven't seen the second episode, I'm going to ruin stuff for you. Alright, so we're going to talk about specific points. So again, the scenery, stunning. Terran Ferry, loved it. I loved the way it looked. I loved the shots with the mist in the background and stuff. I loved them running along the Terran River. I loved when they went through the woods and they were talking to each other. Shadar Logoth, absolutely phenomenal. Really stunning set. They did build that set, and it was really, really, really beautiful. Again, the costumes, all top-notch in my opinion. The props, everything from the daggers they were using to the dagger Matt found in Shader Logoth, right up to and including Nynaeve's herb pouch, the saddles, the blankets, the bedrolls. They were all really, really well done. So visually, this thing was absolutely stunning. Next thing we'll talk about is the acting. Moiraine's hurt, and she has to pretend to be who we all know as readers, Lady Alyss, because she kind of gives up her ring to Lan when she meets the White Cloaks and adopts a new persona. I loved it. I really liked it. She was Lady Alyss in those moments, even though they didn't use that name. That's who I immediately recognized her as from the books. She did a bang-up job, absolutely fantastic. After the dream, when Yosha coughed up that bat, gave me chills. He did a really good job of looking absolutely horrified. But the person I want to talk about most in this is Barney Harris. Barney Harris stole the show. This gentleman is phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about his acting. A lot of quips here and there. He was the comedic relief, 100%, but he was also really believable as Matt. He is Matt in my eyes, and when he wandered off to get that dagger in Shader Logoth, loved it. Just loved the way he acted. Really good job there. Now we're going to talk about the visual and special effects. This is where this episode lost a couple of points. Again, if I can tell what it is, I'm not going to like it, and that's a personal preference. I had some people really roast me in the last review in the comments, basically saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, the visual and special effects were really good. Yes, they were really good, but when those Trollocs are running in the water at the first of the episode, it looks like a cutscene from a video game, from a PS4 game. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. It didn't look good to me. When they're running through the woods, chasing them into Shader Logoth, again, you can tell which ones were real, and you can tell which ones were kind of cut and pasted in. I didn't like that, especially the ones running in all fours. Not a big fan. Now, they did use a lot of practical effects. Love that stuff. And the special effects, I couldn't really tell were special effects. I loved too. So the mist, Mashdar was just a black ooze. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And there's no way that's practical effect. I know it's special effects. I know it's CGI. However, man, I liked it. I believed it. So it made me happy. So again, they lost some points because of the way they handled the CG, and that's bound to happen throughout the entire series for me. Every review I do, I'm probably going to mention something like that because I like to nitpick CGI because I hate it. Now we're going to talk about pacing. Pacing in this thing, spot on. I really wish they'd paced the first episode more like this one, spent more time in the Two Rivers. I think they left too quick. This one, however, they got to the Terran fairly quickly. That was fine, because basically it's just a flight through the woods. They stopped a couple of times on the road. That gave the characters a chance to interact, to talk. It gave the story of Manetheren to be told. That was fantastic. You get to see Egwene and Rand build tension together. You get to see the dreams with the Dark One in them. You get to see all kinds of different stuff with the characters interacting with one another. I thought the pacing was spot on. They get to Shader Logoth after being chased. They were only in there for a very short period of time rather than an extended period like they were in the books. However, again, like a few hours on screen like that, or a few minutes, I should say, is better than a few hours like the books. They did a really good job handling all of that. At the end of the episode, again, they all split their ways. It's a cliffhanger. The pacing to that point, spot on, fantastic. And that's where the first episode lost a lot of points for me. This one, I thought it was fantastic. All right, so I want to hear your folks' comments down below. I certainly heard them in the first episode review. I got a lot of really, really nasty comments from people. If you don't agree with me, that's 100% fine. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. But I'm warning you right now, I've been very positive about the series for the last couple of years, and most regular viewers of my channel know that I have a lot of love in my heart for the show, for the people running the show. I actually have made friends with some of them. And I want this thing to succeed, but I still will be completely and utterly honest in my reviews. I don't love everything all the time because that's almost impossible. Just putting that out there. I'm going to be completely honest in these things. All right, let me know in the comments down below what you folks thought of the episode. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Again, the only real bad point I had in this episode was the CG. Am I a little out to lunch there? Am I off base? Is it my pure hatred of CGI that's causing me to knock this down some points when maybe I shouldn't? Let me know in the comments. All right, thank you so much for sticking with me here to the very end. Here's to many more.